Okay, everybody, here we are, man, back again, and we are going to be hitting up a review of this great album and of the band themselves, man, the Sex Pistols. So let's first start with a little look at the band themselves, and then we'll check out the album, never mind the Bollocks. So, the Sex Pistols. The Sex Pistols were an English punk rock band that formed in London in '75. Although their initial career lasted just 2.5 years, they are regarded as one of the most groundbreaking acts in the history of popular music. They were responsible for initiating the punk movement in the UK and inspiring many later punk and alternative rock musicians. Their fashion and hairstyles have been credited as a significant influence on punk image, and they are often associated with anarchism within music. The Sex Pistols originally comprised vocalist John Lydon, known at the time by his stage name Johnny Rotten, guitarist Steve Jones, drummer Paul Cook, and bassist Glenn Matlock. Matlock was replaced by Sid Vicious in early '77. Under the management of Malcolm McLaren, the band attracted controversies that both captivated and appalled Britain. Through an obscenity-laced television interview in December of '76 and their May '77 single God Save the Queen, attacking Britain's social conformity and deference to the crown, they precipitated the punk rock movement. It was banned not only by the BBC, but also by nearly every independent radio station, making it the most heavily censored record in British history. No doubt. And just that alone will herd a whole bunch of people to their side. Doesn't matter how right or how wrong they are, it's just that way, a flock of seagulls. The band's only album, Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols in '77, a UK number one album, is a staple record of punk rock. In January '78, at the end of their overhyped and turbulent tour of the US, Rotten announced the band's breakup. Over the next few months, the three remaining band members recorded songs for McLaren's film version of the Sex Pistols story, The Great Rock and Roll Swindle. Vicious died of a heroin overdose in February of '79, following his arrest for the alleged murder of his girlfriend, Nancy Spungen. Rotten, Jones, Cook, and Matlock reunited for a highly successful concert tour in '96. Further one-off performances and short tours followed over the next decade. Okay. So a little bit of a resurgence there and well received. Still got their fan base, and probably with this style of music, I can see them attracting new generations of fans. Even our millennials today would probably find this sort of music very appealing and interesting. The Sex Pistols have been recognized as an influence on various genres including grunge, indie, thrash metal, and hip-hop. In 2004, Rolling Stone placed them at number 58 on its list of the 100 greatest artists of all time. On the 4th of February in 2006, the Sex Pistols, the four original members plus Vicious, were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but they refused to attend the ceremony, calling the museum a piss stain. Oh my God. All right. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, aka a piss stain. I don't know why that is so damn funny. All right. So Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols is the only studio album by English rock band The Sex Pistols, released on the 28th of October 1977 by Virgin Records in the UK, and on the 11th of November in '77 by Warner Brothers in the US. The album has influenced many bands and musicians and the industry in general. In particular, the album's raw energy and Johnny Rotten's sneering delivery and half singing are often considered game-changing. It's frequently listed as the most influential punk album and one of the most important and best albums of all time. The band's internal relationships were always volatile, and the lineup saw changes during the recording of the album. Original bass guitarist Glenn Matlock left the band early in the recording process, and while he's credited as a co-writer on all but 2 of the tracks, he only performed bass on Anarchy in the UK. Recording sessions continued with a new bass player, Sid Vicious, who is credited on 2 of the songs the band wrote after he joined. While Vicious' bass playing appeared on 2 tracks, his lack of skills on the instrument meant that many of the tracks were recorded with guitarist Steve Jones playing bass instead. Drummer Paul Cook and singer Johnny Rotten appeared on every track. The various recording sessions were led alternatively by Chris Thomas or Bill Price, and sometimes both together, but as the songs on the final albums often combined mixes from different sessions or were poorly documented who was present in the recording booth at the time, each song is jointly credited to both producers. By the time of its release, the Sex Pistols were already controversial, having sworn on live TV, been fired from 2 record labels, and been banned from playing live in some parts of Britain. The album title added to that controversy, with some people finding the word Bollocks offensive. Yeah, that was the time, man. Many record stores refused to carry it, and some record charts refused to list its title, showing just a blank space instead. Due in part to its notoriety, and in spite of many sales bans at major retailers, the album debuted at number 1 on the UK Albums Chart. It achieved advance orders of 125,000 copies after a week of its release and went gold only a few weeks later on the 17th of November. See, when you're good, you can't be denied, no matter how many times people try to suppress or whatever the case is. I'm thinking of the troubles Led Zeppelin had early in their career, and especially with the likes of Rolling Stone, seemed to want to suppress them, if not destroy them. Why? Because they were good and they wouldn't give them a share of the pie that they thought that they were entitled to. Interesting. It remained a bestseller for nearly a year, spending 48 weeks in the top 75. The album has also been certified platinum by the RIAA. It's seen several reissues, the latest in 2017. In '87, Rolling Stone named the album the second best of the previous 20 years, behind only the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The same magazine ranked it number 3 on their list, number 73 on their list of the 500 greatest albums of all time in 2020. In 2006, it was chosen by Time magazine as one of the 100 greatest albums ever. Yeah, wow, look at the legacy here. And the list of all of the musicians that they've influenced. See, there you go. That's what it's all about. Not what critics have to say and all of that sort of nonsense. Yeah, speaking of critics, let's skip over this guy, man. Oh, man. I just can't stand this dude. Let's skip over this person. Legacy. In '85, NME writers voted Never Mind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols the 13th greatest album of all time. In '93, NME writers voted the album the 3rd greatest of all time. And in '87, Rolling Stone named it the 2nd best album of the previous 20 years, behind only the Beatles. The same magazine named it 41st on their list of the 500 greatest albums ever in 2003, maintaining the same position in an updated list in 2012. In an interview during 2002, Rolling Stone journalist Charles M. Young stated, quote, "Never Mind the Bollocks changed everything. There had never been anything like it before, and really there's never been anything quite like it since. The closest was probably Nirvana, a band very heavily influenced by the Sex Pistols. Kurt Cobain from Nirvana listed the album on his top 50 favorite albums, and the title of Nirvana's second album, Nevermind, was inspired by the Sex Pistols album, which at the time angered Rotten. Interesting. Okay. In his 1995 book, The Alternative Music Almanac, Alan Cross placed the album in the number 6 spot on his 10 classic alternative albums list. In '97, Nevermind the Bollocks, Here's the Sex Pistols was named the 24th greatest album of all time in a Music of the Millennium poll conducted in the UK by HMV Group, Channel 4, The Guardian, and Classic FM. Wow. Okay, so yeah, they're just going through all of these lists and all of these accolades and Colin Larkin's all-time top 1,000 albums. It just keeps going on and on here. A part of the 100 greatest albums ever by Time, and it just keeps going on and on. Let's scroll down. Noel Gallagher was interviewed for a television program called When Albums Ruled the World for BBC, aired in early 2013. He said of the album's opening with Holidays in the Sun that it's extremely provocative. What we can only assume is jackboots, which he followed by saying, as soon as that starts, everything that has gone on before is now deemed fucking irrelevant. As soon as he, John Lydon, starts anti-singing. He then said of Pretty Vacant, one of the first things you learn when you pick up the electric guitar is that riff. He then further commented, I made 10 albums, and in my mind, they don't match up to that, and I'm an arrogant bastard. I'd give them all up to have written that I truly would. To have written that I truly would. Okay. Yeah, and that being Pretty Vacant, the song Pretty Vacant. Okay, it must have been a really big hit then. Yeah, he's definitely singing about either the youth or probably more closely the following and the collective following of the Sex Pistols. I think that's probably what they were talking about. We just don't care. All right, yeah, so that is the information given for the band and the song and their legacy. You know, a really, really good example of, even though they haven't been around very long, their impact and influence is still felt today. It's still strong. And like Hendrix, for example, I mean, the dude didn't make it all the way through the 70s, but he's still in that very, very high regard, you know. I'm thinking of Cream. I'm thinking of a lot of some of our great artists that we really, really give props to these days. Didn't make it all the way into the 70s. And again, the Sex Pistols, same thing. Sometimes you don't need to go all the way through to cement your legacy. And these guys have a very, very solid legacy, obviously, man. So that concludes our look at this cool band and their very, very interesting history, man. So coming up, man, I got some reactions to hit up. Ancat, John, Jack, Joshua, Pete, a couple of new patrons. So I'm playing catch up again. Sorry and forgive me for running behind. Life can be very challenging at times, so I was going through some challenges. But I'm going to be playing catch up in the next little bit. So thanks for not jumping on my ass about where's mine. I appreciate that. Sometimes there's like a telepathy in the air. You can tell when somebody is, you know, going through some trying times. So thanks very much for doing that. I have a feeling that you guys kind of got a feel that I was going through some trying times, so I appreciate that. All right, man. Yeah, so that is what I have coming up, and that's our look at this great band. So Freddie, thank you again. I appreciate the recommendation, man. It's one of those little bits of cornerstone history for me to to kind of put in certain places, you know. And even though they're not mainstream classic rock, they're from that classic era, that classic time, that period of creativity I talk about all the time, where, you know, they were firing on all their creative cylinders, and they're part of that great collective whole period piece, that timepiece that created really excellent stuff. So there you go, man. These guys are as much part of the Renaissance creativity part as the Beatles and the Stones were. So that is my reaction and my review. So fingers crossed with me that some of this will make it onto YouTube. You never know, man. Anyways, you guys have yourselves a good one, and I'll see you tomorrow for Ant Cat's reaction. Peace out.